Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Girls in Movement podcast. We are officially on episode 16 today, and we have a very exciting guest on the show. So, this individual is, I suppose, what the Girls in Movement podcast is all about, finding influencers who could tell a story to a group of girls in India, for example, or anywhere in the world, and I suppose give them that confidence to do what they love or what they have an interest in. My guest has recently been shortlisted for Entrepreneur of the Year, which I hope she'll tell us a bit about. And that, of course, highlights women in business, but of course, diverse individuals as well. My guest has also worked with prolific fashion brands such as Burberry, Harrods, Asos, Urban Outfitters, to name a few. So, without further ado, I'd like to welcome Golhar. How are you,
I'm fine, thank you, Polly. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I think Girls in Movement is such a great initiative. So yeah, I'm happy to kind of share my journey with you guys.
Thank you very much. I mean, for everyone that's listening as well, like most conversations on this podcast, I've not met Anne before. I only know sort of snippets of her story. So our conversation is completely kind of informal and 100% real, which is of course the best kind of conversation. So let's start off. So you started in the creative industry at 22-ish, if I'm right, maybe earlier. So what was the start of your career like? Have you been born and raised here in the UK, or how did it all start?
Okay, so yep, I'm British Asian, born in West London. My career my education, I guess, started in West London. I went to the Green School, and I then obviously went on to going to school. I was always a creative young individual. I knew I wanted to go into fashion, and I did it. I got into Central St. Martin's. At the time of applying, I didn't realize how big they were. It's the top art university in the world, I guess, where some of them currently went, Alexander McQueen. So it's quite recognized, and it was an achievement within itself, getting into Central St. Martin's. And I then specialized in knitwear, in textiles knitwear, to be precise. I then obviously finished my degree and thought, okay, what do I do now? And I freelanced as a designer for a while and worked with a designer called JW Anderson for London Fashion Week. And I launched his first autumn-winter line, which was, a great achievement within itself as well. I then kind of realized, okay, being a freelancer is not going to make me enough money. And I was kind of been a poor student for like about 4 years. So I was like, oh, okay, what do I do next? So I got my first job with a very small manufacturing business with a gentleman called John Michael Ingram, who was in his late 70s at the time. So John had manufactured for household names worldwide. He had the first fashion publication company called Fashion Forecast. He had Guys and Dolls on Oxford Street. And for me to be working with such a great man, it was amazing. He was almost like my mentor. Yeah. And I guess I can call him my mentor.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. I mean, obviously, Girls in Movement is all about mentoring for young girls. I mean, what was the importance of having someone like him as a mentor at that time of your life, would you say?
I think being at such a young age in that career, it was important because there was no one else to tell me, okay, this is how you got to do things. And luckily enough, whilst I was with him and I was learning the whole manufacturing process and how everything worked, I also was being asked by my friends, how do I sample this? How do I manufacture this? And that's how that business started for me at 22. Because I had the platform of him giving me knowledge and teaching me things. And, I had the opportunities of working with amazing household names like Harrods and Burberry and all the small boutiques in Notting Hill. And, I was so young and I was consulting these household names, and I look back now and I'm like, wow, did I really do that?
Yeah.
And I think at that time and at that age, you don't think about these things. And for me, that was an amazing opportunity. And I'd then kind of left him a year later, and my manufacturing consultancy took off. And then I went on to launching my own men's knitwear brand called Angola, where we did an exclusive collection for Asos at the time. And, thinking back, I'm not actually sure if I was the first British Asian woman to do an exclusive collection with them. But I think I possibly would. And, that for me was such a great achievement as well. From being in magazines like Vogue, the Daily Telegraph, dressing people like David Gandy and the Skins at the time. I remember we sent them pieces and they did a shoot with us. So, I had some great times, and I achieved and accomplished what I wanted at, by 25. With being a fashion designer and stocking globally. And, I did that. And I think for me, that was an accomplishment. And sometimes your journey changes in life. And my journey did change. Sometimes things don't serve you anymore and you don't enjoy them, and you kind of just got to make a decision and you got to keep moving forward. And I think for me, that's what I did. I didn't enjoy the manufacturing business. I think it was before I was 30, and I decided, okay, I don't enjoy this anymore. I was literally married to my job. I used to, jump on a flight if anything was in production. It was like, no thought about it. Jump on a flight, go stay in a factory for 3 months and go and oversee the production for, the client's brands, which were going in either places like TK Maxx, Joy, Topshop. So, I then kind of got quite ill at that age because I suffered from exhaustion. People think to be successful, you need to work 24 hours. And that is what my mindset was. I could not turn off. Now, fast forward a few years later, I work maybe 3 hours, power working with 3 hours max in my day.
Wow, okay.
And the rest is just work. And if I knew that back then, it would be fine. But the manufacturing wasn't serving me after, 28, 29. I was exhausted. I decided I didn't want to do this anymore. So I continued consulting. My journey somehow took me into PR, where I kind of went on board to consult a company called Buffer Beauty, which was not fashion, but it was construction. And I went, which is absolutely completely different. So I went on board and worked in their PR and media team. So my first 6 months there was consulting them to go through a transformation of a rebrand, which I did. And then somehow I ended up becoming a business partner for the major project side of the business, and then in the media team for the major project side of the business. So that was amazing within itself because, the projects that I looked after were things like the former Olympic Stadium. Crossrail had just launched. So, I did the Crossrail tunneling exhibition show with Crossrail for their first thing at the British Transport Museum. I launched the Duke of Edinburgh for Balfour Beatty. So, where I went to St. James's Palace, we were awarded the certificate, and with, and I've had some great achievements with, working with them and HS2 and working with apprenticeships and young individuals, and that journey, I was there for about 3 years, and it was time to move on because I think for me, one, it was a lot of time I'd worked for anyone in my life. I also realized, I feel like there's more to me than just being here and doing this. And, I had personal mishaps in my life where I had no responsibility. And I thought, well, I'm not being true to myself. This is a great journey. I've had the great experience I've had. I, studied at the same time to become a practitioner. So I had a lot of knowledge in, creativity and PR and business and branding. And it was like, okay, I'm going to kind of go back to consulting. And I had this new platform of public relations now. So when I was going in to see clients, it was like, we want this, and it was offering the PR platform as well as consulting them with their business and their brand. And then somehow my PR agency formed, and it then got turned into a business.
Right.
So Abstract PR got formed less than a year ago, and it's just been amazing. It's been an amazing journey. It's been very purposeful in terms of the clients that we look after. Obviously, being British Asian, diversity to me is very important, and I attracted a lot of diverse clients that had a purpose, that were passionate about their business, their brand, or whatever they did. And all of the guys that I work with, I shouldn't say guys, but people or businesses or brands, they're all impactful individuals making change, and to help leverage them further, it just it pleases me, and that's what Abstract PR is about. And for me, that's where we are at now, I guess.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, I think what's really nice about it as well is that you did something that you were passionate about when you were obviously kind of at university and going at 22 and starting your own business within fashion. But when you're younger, you feel like, okay, I've picked this path, I have to stick to it for the rest of my life. And I think what I love about kind of within the UK now, anyway, I was reading an article about how the kind of standard job of like a profession, like an accountant, lawyer, or whatever else, is slowly kind of dying away, because a lot of individuals, when they're younger, they think I can do stuff on the side, I can do what I love, as well as have a day job as well. So it's really cool that you had that experience. You realized, oh, okay, do you know what? I'm not going to work myself into the ground. Let me go into. It's weird to do it that way, to go from your own sort of, I suppose, like a startup, I suppose, and then go into a corporate world, because they're worlds apart. But actually, a lot of the same skills are needed. Kind of hustling your way up, and I think corporate people love that as well, because obviously what you used in your fashion brand, it's not as relevant within the industry, but it's the same principles when you're doing any sort of business, really. So with Abstract PR, is that something that you're doing full time at the moment?
Yeah, so Abstract PR is a full-time PR agency.
Great.
And we have about 8 employees.
Wow.
And we've been growing for less than 1 year. And we look after, public figures, as I mentioned, who are business leaders, multi-millionaire business leaders, property educators, as well as small startup businesses or that want to start launching, and they all have a mission to accomplish, and they are all such impactful individuals who have a purpose of doing what they're doing, and I think that's what Abstract PR is about. We're about being versatile, we're about being real and working with real people. So for example, if it's someone that's a reality TV star that just wants to become famous overnight, I wouldn't work with them, because I wouldn't know what to sell them. It's easy to put someone in front of a TV, but when there's no purpose and change to make, we have our values as well. And I think that's what is also important, that we follow those, and we're true to ourselves, and we're also true to our clients. And there's 3 things about Abstract PR. It's about, 1, the people, the businesses that we look after, and following those values. 2, it's about me mentoring and taking on individuals that haven't had the chance to get into the industry, and it's me providing that platform, and I give them at least 60 hours a month on one-on-one.
Wow.
To give knowledge, because for me, it's about creating them into experts in their area of field, and it's about creating leaders and not needers. And that's what one of the things my mentor taught me. I've been working with a mentor for about a year now, and his name's Wahiwa, and he's a multi-millionaire business leader. Someone that's experienced and gone through all of the businesses and the strategies, it's about me kind of also giving that back. If I was given the opportunity at such a young age, why can't I provide that back? Where am I going to take that? We're all born into this world, but what's going to happen like after we leave? Do we just take it with us? No, it's also about creating a legacy, and making that change for the new generation, which is important.
Yeah, completely.
And it's important to also create women leaders as well, and especially in the British Asian community.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, moving on to that point, actually, you've led me into my next
Yeah.
question now very nicely. I found out you were actually part of the BBC Asian Network campaign celebrating kind of 100 years since women were allowed to vote. So for you, what has it been like being in, firstly, how was the campaign? Tell us about that.
I think that campaign is so important. I mean, wow, it's been 100 years that women could vote, but there is so much still to be done. But women have such a long way. Part of that campaign, I'm really grateful that my voice heard, and I could kind of give my feedback, not my feedback, and provide what is needed from my perspective in terms of there needs to be more women leaders.
Yeah.
And especially in the British Asian community. I mean, yes, you do have a few British Asian leaders. Like you've got Preeti Gill now, who's an MP. You've got, Sadiq Khan as well. But there needs to be more in all the different types of industries there are. I had the opportunity to interview Manny Coley, who, is a British Asian woman, been in the fashion industry for over 40 years. And, we spoke about her journey of how it was when she first started. And her journey started off with going to women's houses and showing them clothes and selling them clothes, to then opening her first boutique in 1985. And, those times have changed so much. She's such an amazing, phenomenal woman who I believe has opened up a pathway for the British fashion industry as designers as well.
Yeah, so I mean that's great that you obviously I briefly know about kind of Manny Coley and her work, but it's really cool that obviously that's her background and how she first started out. So in terms of what's it been like, would you say, obviously being an Asian woman within the creative industry when you were working doing that? Would you say was it challenging? Was it an issue, or did you face any issues?
Oh, always. I think one of the issues I think I faced was being so young, and when you're on email or on phone to a factory or to suppliers or whoever, they don't know your age. They just assume, because I had so much experience and knowledge in such a short space of time. I understood where my focus and my vision was, and I knew what I wanted. And for them, they thought I was a lot older, and they'd meet me and be like, "How old are you?" And that, I think, was a bit of a put down, because it doesn't matter how old you are; it's the knowledge you have. And I mean, I still face it every single day. Sometimes, I had to go to an important event a few weeks ago, and I was in a room full of white alpha males, and I was probably one of three women, and one being Asian, and the other obviously being English, and another lady who was of Asian origin as well. But if I wasn't taken as seriously as the non-Asian woman,
Yeah.
and I think there is still an impact of that today. Things might be changing, but there are always challenges that you're going to still face, and sometimes there are going to be men that look at you and kind of be like, well, you're brown and you're a woman. What do you know? And I still feel that there is that.
And I and I think I couldn't agree with you more, because on sort of, I mean, we're in the world of where we see on our social media, we follow we follow people that we want to follow. So we live in a world where when we scroll through our Twitter feed or Instagram feed, we're like, yeah, women votes and women rights, and and people are kind of celebrating that, especially since kind of the past year, which I think is way too late. But when you come out of that sort of
Yeah.
social bubble and you go into real kind of the real world and in the sort of corporate world, I always find it's like you are surrounded by alpha males 24/7, and it's alpha white males, I suppose, but it definitely needs to change. I think corporate companies more are trying to hire that individual who can kind of take control of that corporate social responsibility and have female kind of leaders within the company as well. But I still think it happens
Yeah.
too slowly. Like yeah, it needs to change quickly.
Yeah, like there is a lot more to be done still, and we need to be recognized a lot more for the work, the knowledge, the experience that we have.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's important for sure.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It was interesting. I had a guest on my show a while ago who was talking about um, mentors don't necessarily have to be someone who's older. She actually works with a kind of she mentors different people, and she said what she started doing is actually having mentoring kind of younger children, and actually a 16-year-old can mentor another 16-year-old. And I think that's a really nice idea. Like, okay, fair enough, you don't have that kind of years of knowledge that you can kind of tell someone, but having a similar sort of experience in that generation and stuff is also quite important. I think people fail to remember that a mentor can be of any age and can tell you anything at any time of their life, which is really important as well. So
Yeah,
in
and
terms,
I think especially like learning from older people that have had the experience is just
yeah,
so amazing as well. Sometimes we take advantage of the older generation, but they're the ones with the knowledge. They're the ones that have gone through life. They're the ones that have gone through the experience.
yeah, completely,
And it's such an amazing thing. Like I'm such a huge humanitarian where I've gone out to South India for 2 months, and I've gone in and done women empowerment programs and child development to teach younger children.
wow,
And it's just it's an amazing thing to do. And why not share this knowledge with people?
yeah,
And I think especially today, women need to support women.
yeah,
And I mean, there's a lot of women empowerment things going on at the moment, and I think it's fantastic. But I do think there needs to be more support going on, because I also do see a lot of competition at the same time,
yeah.
which is sad. But yeah, I think we should all just support each other. There's enough for everyone in the world.
Yeah, completely. I couldn't agree with you more. And obviously the work that you kind of did in South India, we briefly spoke about it before we started the call, but it seems like it's something that you want to kind of take further. So what's the sort of plans in 2018 in terms of kind of mentoring? And you have something like a road.
Oh wow. So yeah, there's lots happening actually. So I am where so myself and my business partner are launching a roadshow where we have a program which has been recognised and approved by the British Chamber of Commerce,
Right.
which we will be delivering as, I guess, inspiring women. And it's about basically providing a platform to educate people, I guess women that it's not singled out. So if men obviously want to come to it, that's completely fine.
Yeah.
But it's about helping them to achieve and start a business, or whether they're already in business, to grow further. Because I know when I was growing up, my dad had a business, but he didn't know anything about manufacturing. And you need sometimes to have that knowledge of someone that's already been there and done that.
Yeah.
And you need that guidance. Like in school, no one teaches you about how to start a business, or whether you're in business, how do you take it to the next level. And we've got modules which we'll be providing. And so that's going to be happening this year, which is really, really exciting. And I think it's just, it's going to impact a lot of women, and it's going to just help make that change. And it's just supporting them, really.
No,
So I'm really excited about that.
that's huge.
And that's really cool.
I think as well it's
Yeah.
great that it's been recognised by the British Chambers of Commerce, because we recognise that obviously, well, I think they see it as a way to influence female individuals within the UK and giving people like yourselves a platform to inspire women, talk to them, and yeah, just be a bit more influential, really. And I think that's really important. So it's cool. It's really cool, and definitely we'll put the details of the dates when they're finalised,
Oh, thank
so
you.
people can kind of join, etc. So yeah, I mean, the one question that I always ask all my guests is, if you could give your younger self any advice, what would it be?
Ooh, get a mentor. I think it would be get a mentor. I have a mentor. I've had a mentor in the last year, and the change that has happened in achieving and accomplishing my goals in such a short space of time has been amazing. Abstract PR has only been around for less than a year, where we've confirmed about 4 TEDx talks this year already, and we're only at the beginning of Feb or mid-Feb, and we've been recognised with becoming a media partner with the Business Show in May, which is the UK's biggest business trade show. And we've worked alongside, the BBC and other media platforms as well. So I think having a mentor and just guiding you further is always going to help you. I mean, when you're in big corporate companies and there's a CEO, he's got about 10 advisors.
Yeah.
Everyone has mentors. Richard Branson has a mentor or advisor, and it's about learning. It's always about continuing education and learning, because no one can take that away from you.
Yeah, completely. And I couldn't agree more, especially when you're building a business. You've got to constantly keep learning and adjusting the ways that you're working, because I think the speed that businesses are changing, technology is changing. I think you've got to make sure, especially small businesses, don't fall behind. And yeah, they've got to keep going. Amazing. Well, Bob, so final point.
I think one of the main things I would say is just get focused and don't let anyone take you off that path.
Great.
And you have a mission to achieve. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to come, and they're going to kind of let's take you off that route. But if you're focused and you've got a mentor, no one can take that away from you.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, it's an interesting point as well, because having that focus on one thing, I think sometimes when you have not necessarily older people, but more experienced people telling you, kind of, okay, take it in this direction and change what you're doing, sometimes you kind of get a bit blurred, because you're like, okay, they must know what they're doing because they've got so much experience, but actually you've got to stick to what your gut's telling you, and you've got to put your foot down sometimes.
I think it's being true to yourself, because there's always going to be people saying, oh, why didn't you do it this way, why didn't you do it that way? But you've got to be true to your own values. Otherwise it won't align, and you might be going in a direction that you don't want to go in, and you're going via someone else's values and what they feel, which is not really fulfilling your purpose, to be quite honest.
Yeah, no, completely. Well, thank you so much, Anne, for a really good podcast. It's been really kind of insightful to find out about kind of your complete switch, which I never knew about, of kind of going from fashion into corporate and now obviously into PR as well. So yeah, it's such a great story, and yeah, you should be very proud of everything you've achieved so far. 2018 seems very exciting, so yeah, definitely can't wait to keep up with that. So yeah, everyone, thank you so much for listening, of course.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on.
Oh, thank you so much for having me as well.
Yeah, no worries, anytime. What we'll do is we'll put all of Am's details of Abstract PR, of course, any kind of road shows that are coming up. We'll put all the social details, and we are live on iTunes, so you can, of course, download this as a podcast as well. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Am, and stay tuned.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.